ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Thursday Night Football Overtime. Woo, it felt good to say that. Oh my goodness, football is back. Celebrate. Oh, and you know what? That actually wasn't a bad game. Now, we didn't make it to the finish line. Weather kind of sidetracked the finish of that game. Nobody's complaining. They were at the stage of the game when they were going to try to run out the clock anyway. So nobody's worried about the game not reaching its conclusion. The fact of the matter is we've got football. And for the next 6 months, we will have football. And that is all that one needs to know about tonight's Hall of Fame game. 21-17 was the score at the conclusion of the game when they stopped it due to the thunderstorms that were in the area. Look, that's already not a great surface to be playing on to begin with. Remember, it was just a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but they had to cancel a Hall of Fame game because the conditions weren't ideal. I don't know if that's the same field or not. I think they got a different turf or something that they put down. It's not a great, place to play football. I'll just say that. But because guys were slipping all over the place tonight. But with that said, it was actually a well-played game. 21-17. Bears were ahead when the game was stopped. Brett Rippon looked outstanding in this game. So did Colin Johnson, who he had a really good connection with. We'll be seeing, obviously, a lot of the footage from this game on Hard Knocks, starting, the 6th, I believe, of August. They'll start that series up. So I'm pretty sure it starts next week because the Giants ended this week, and they're going to just kind of transition seamlessly into training camp with Hard Knocks with the Chicago Bears. So we'll see a lot of this. I wonder if they'll be following Colin Johnson or someone like that. They always pick a couple of guys who are on the outside of the roster looking in to follow, things of that nature. So it'll be really interesting to see what they decide to do because they've got some content if that is in fact the case with the way that Johnson played tonight. I was surprised to see Khalil Herbert in the game, deep into the second quarter. My wife was like, "Who is that?" And I'm like, it's Khalil Herbert. I'm shocked he's in the game right now. Like, he's actually a really good back. I like him a lot. I was shocked to see him not necessarily playing in this game. I thought he might have been out there on the opening possession with Tyler Bagent. But after that, once you start seeing some of the other guys get in there, I thought he would have been already out of there. But apparently he's a little bit further down the depth chart than I suspected. But that's nor here nor there. I know they like Roschon Johnson too as well, but I just thought I like Khalil Herbert a lot. But I'm burying the lead here, okay? We got to talk Texans jerseys, okay? This is the first time we've seen those puppies unveiled. What did you think? We'll get to that. But we got to start with the kickoff, right? The NFL calls it its dynamic kickoff, okay? What did you think? And again, if you guys watched the XFL, 2-3 years ago or whatever the case may be, then this is not foreign to you. You've seen this. You're very well versed in how this works. And so you're like, whatever, I've seen this a million times. I did not indulge in any XFL content. I did not watch that league at all whatsoever. So this is all new to me. So the NFL and their dynamic kickoff, I love how they just ripped it from the XFL and then made it their own and gave it a name as if they made it up. The dynamic kickoff rule was in play tonight, and they gave us a bunch of different ways to see it unfold. Because remember, I was asking a question and somebody answered the question in the comment section. Shout out to whoever answered in the comment section. I had asked, Well, what happens if the ball is blowing off the tee? Normally you just have one of the guys that's standing up there that, were on the line next to where the ball was going to be kicked off, hold the ball for the kicker and then get up and run down with the rest of his teammates after the ball's been kicked. Well, you can't pull a guy all the way from the, 40-yard line and have him come all the way, back, or the 35 or wherever he is, and have him come all the way back to hold the ball and then get up and run all the way down. The kicker's the only guy that's supposed to be able to run while the ball is in flight. Everybody else is supposed to be essentially frozen until the ball is caught. So they had like trial runs tonight where they had the extra player come out, the 12th player come out, hold the ball, which is usually the punter. He holds the ball and then he has to get off the field, right? It's really weird to see all of these things transpire. What if one breaks? Like, you really need to be hauling ass off the field, because what if a kickoff breaks and you're jogging off the field? You know what I mean? Like, I would surmise that you'd be able to grab the tee, get off the field without, even if it breaks, you should be well off the field by then. But it's just weird to see a 12th guy on the field running off and there's no penalty, right? But there's still a lot of things that they have to work out. A lot of guys. What's weird is when the old kickoff rules, when you would kick off, there was no offsides really. You get one every 5 or 6 games with the guy being over anxious, taking off before the ball was kicked. But normally guys will just stand on that line right where the ball is on the 35-yard line. And once the kicker kicks it, they take off. So you rarely get offsides penalties. These guys are like kind of so anxious. They're ready to move and you got to wait. Like, I thought Joe Buck had the perfect analogy. It's very similar to tagging up from third base on a fly ball to try to get to home plate. You got to wait and wait. And as soon as that guy touches the ball, now you want to be active. You want to get active and get into it. And guys were falling down or like trying not to go over the line. One guy, started to double back a little bit sooner than the ball was caught. So there were 2 penalties there. And it's just weird watching all of this kind of transpire. It does look like, and we've heard this pretty much all offseason, that it looks like a big running play. And it does look like a big rushing play, right? It looks like you've got the blocking there and everything's kind of set up. It's gonna take some getting used to. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was weird watching it. But obviously they want to limit the collisions, from long distances, the built up speed. This is going to help with that. It looks like you're going to have opportunities for these things to break, right? Because if you break through that first wave, this is the only thing that kind of sucks about this rule, the way it's set up. I think it's going to be hard for you to break it. But if it gets blocked up and you hit a seam, there's no other, like, at least there were waves of defenders when you normally had a kickoff. You break that first wave and there was still another wave that you had to pass before you were in the clear, and all you have to do now is beat the kicker. If you break through that first wave of defenders, there's no one left except the kicker. I mean, it's pretty much a touchdown because you got nothing but space and opportunity with a kicker who is as unathletic as it gets. You give him one in and out move, he's falling all over himself, and you're off to the races. Like, if you don't get the guy down with the football upon contact in that first wave of defenders, it's probably going to be a house call. It's probably going to be a resident call. So it's going to be interesting to see how many of these break for touchdowns this year. But it's just weird seeing the ball. Now kickers are purposefully trying to pop it up into that landing zone, right? So you don't want to kick it too hard. It's going to be a lot of adjusting. I think you're going to see a lot of these returns in the preseason because, special teams coaches are going to want to see exactly how this works. They want to have actual footage of these returns so they can go back, assess it, have something to show on tape to their players, and really get a better understanding of how they can take advantage of this setup. So it's going to be fascinating to see how all of this works. And them showing us what happens when you need an extra player out there, them kind of showing different layers of the play. I think it's a good idea to do this in the preseason so everyone has an opportunity. And I wonder if they're going to do that in all the preseason games, not just this one, but in every preseason game, so that every team sees what it looks like. I'm pretty sure they're going to try and do that. And maybe they'll have that done in every preseason game, not just your first one or your second one, but every single preseason game that takes place, there will be at least one of those kickoffs for each side where you bring out the 12th man to hold the ball, to replicate a windy day where you got to have that guy come out there so that you can practice and get those reps in now, so that in the event that it happens during a game, everyone's had some sort of experience with it before. Again, it's a small change, but it's a change nonetheless, having a guy come out there and then have to run off the field so he's not a part of the play. But all in all, I think it's going to have the intended effect. It does look weird. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to take some getting used to, but I can see why they're doing this, not just from a health standpoint. This is less about player safety, and it's more about bringing more excitement to the game. Again, they talked about this play really becoming ancillary, almost a play that was kind of matter of fact. You kind of knew what it was going to be. It was going to be a touchback. The risk wasn't worth the reward of kicking the ball to where someone could return it. Yeah, there's a chance you could tackle a guy at the 17-yard line, but there's also a chance that he's going to run it out past the 25. And for teams, a lot of times, if you elected to return the kickoff, you weren't making it to the 25-yard line. So it really wasn't a benefit to even try to return the kickoff. Just take it at the 25 and see if you can matriculate the ball 75 yards down the field for a touchdown. So instead of having this just be sort of a ceremonial play where you kick it off and you have, somebody take a knee or let the ball bounce into the end zone and become a touchback, instead of having it become that, which is what it was, turning into, which it had turned into essentially, this is going to be a fun play. I can see it generating the excitement that the NFL was looking for when they decided that this is what they wanted to do with this play. And so I could see games being a lot more exciting, some kickoffs going for touchdowns. I mean, how many kickoffs went for touchdowns last year? 3, maybe? No more than 5, league-wide. Like, just kickoff returns don't happen for touchdowns very often anymore. This is going to change. You're going to see some of these go for touchdowns this year, and it's going to alter games. It's really going to change games, and the kickoff is going to be a part of the game once again. So it'll be really fun to watch it throughout the preseason, kind of get my eyes adjusted to it, kind of get my brain used to seeing it, because I had gotten to a point now where on kickoffs, I really wasn't paying attention to the game anymore, because I just didn't expect the kickoff to either be returned, 1, 2, even if it came out, you're not even getting to the 20 a lot of times, with the way that it was set up. So now you have to pay attention to kickoffs again. So I'm looking forward to it. This I think it's going to be a rule that adds excitement to the game, which was the whole purpose of them doing this in the first place. The Texans uniforms, what did you guys think? Leave it down in the comment section. I want to know what you guys thought about the Texans' new unis. They had teased them throughout the offseason. I was kind of tracking a lot of Texans fans to see how they felt about the uniforms. Universally, I thought they accepted it, felt really good about them. They didn't move me necessarily. I was like, yeah, I did like the shoulder pads, the little horns coming up, but outside of that, the lettering didn't move me. I'm more of a fan of the red Texans numbers that they had on the previous uniforms. So I did miss that. It didn't really, they were fine. I don't think they're ugly or anything. I don't dislike them, but it didn't really move the needle for me. They're different, I guess. So when something's different, If I were a Texans fan, maybe I'd feel differently about them. Maybe I would love them, right? I don't think the Texans have had that many changes to their uniforms since its inception. They've had different color schemes, obviously adding the all red and things of that nature into it, and they've made tweaks to the helmet, and the uniform has gotten a more modern look over time, but this is the first real change to the uniform, and so I'm pretty sure they're probably stoked about it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they have a blue version of this, or does it only come in white? Again, these are things that I'm not 100% sure of. If a Texans fan is out there and you know the answer to this, I would love to know. But on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the worst, I'd say those were about a 6.5 for me. I mean, again, if they weren't bad, I didn't have any issues with them, but they didn't knock my socks off. I didn't walk away saying, man, those Texans unis were fire, right? Man, those were crispy. I didn't walk away saying that. I just like, oh, okay. Texas got new uniforms. Cool. Yeah, all right. That's kind of how I walked away. Or, as some would say, meh. They're not meh. Meh would be 5 or lower, right? They're 6.5 for me. I thought they were okay. I see Rich says the jerseys aren't bad, but they're not good. Exactly. Well, I wouldn't say they're not good. They just didn't necessarily move the needle all that much. Not good would imply that they're bad. If something's not good, then it's bad, right? They're not a needle mover for me. They're okay. I'll just leave it at that. They're okay, right? I want to know if they have that same jersey in blue in their dark navies, and then what would the color scheme be on the numbers? Are they going to be red? Are they going to be white? I would assume they probably be white to keep consistent with the way that they've looked in the past. But it'll be interesting to see if they have a home and away that look like that. I'm assuming that's the way their jerseys are going to look from now on. Like, that's not an alternate that we saw tonight. That's their standard away uniform. The white ones and the all blues will look like the ones we saw tonight, just in all blue. And those will be the standard home uniforms. And I would assume they have a red alternate that looks like the one we saw tonight. That's my assumption. I could be wrong about that, but we will see. As far as the play on the field is concerned, I thought Davis Mills, who was out there initially for the Texans, thought he looked good, was sharp on that opening drive, took him right down the field. Cade Stover had a catch, their third-round pick, tight end out of Ohio State. So that was a positive for them. I thought it was a really good drive to open up. I didn't even know that that's where Cam Akers was, because he can still play football. Like, I still don't actually know how he fell out of favor in LA. Like, what went wrong there with him and Sean McVay? They always seem to never be on the same page. They always seem to be amiss with one another. But he did some good things in LA. And so I always felt like there's talent there to be tapped into if he can just find a competent home. I think Houston is going to be a good place for him. They have Joe Mixon. Obviously, they traded for him in the offseason from Cincinnati. And they still have Pierce. But, Pierce got run off the field essentially last year by Motor Singletary. So I think there's space and opportunity for Cam Akers to work his way up the depth chart because, Dameon Pierce, if Motor Singletary could essentially, outplay him last year, what's stopping Cam Akers from ascending up the depth chart and getting some snaps? I thought he played really well and looked good tonight, caught the touchdown pass, had a nice little run with a spin. I thought he was super effective. And I thought Davis Mills did what Davis Mills was supposed to do as a former starter in this league. You're playing against the other team's 2s and 3s. I need you to go out and shred them, go right down the field, score a touchdown. That's what he did. I thought he had a really solid opening drive. Good for Davis Mills. They still got Case Keenum. I didn't realize they're probably 3 deep at quarterback. I mean, I'm assuming they were 3 deep last year because as I think about it, Davis Mills was there and Case Keenum was there. Are they keeping all 3 of those guys? Most teams don't like keeping 3 quarterbacks on the roster. So with both of them, Mills and Keenum being veterans, I would assume Keenum is the veteran that they would want to have there available. Keenum stepped in really well for them at the end of the year last year when CJ Stroud got hurt, got a big win on the road at Tennessee. So I'm pretty sure if they had to choose between the two, Keenum would probably be the guy. But Davis Mills was out there first. Again, you know how these things go in the preseason. Mills could go first this week. Next week, it could be Case Keenum going out first and getting essentially the better of the reps with the guys that are going to play limited snaps before they take them off and put the, third stringers or whatnot out there. So who knows what the Texans are thinking. Maybe they're keeping all 3 of those guys on the roster, but all in all, pretty solid showing for them. I was disappointed that they were able to cause a fumble and couldn't recover it. Like, you got 80 dudes around the ball, and instead of, a wise man once said, you got to know the difference between being in the town and being in the country. When you're in the country, you can pick up the ball, try to scoop it and score it, all of that good stuff. When you're in the town, when you're in the city, right? You got to understand that there's a lot of traffic around. Got to be careful. Just fall on the football. What are we doing, guys? Right? There's no way the Bears should have ended up with that football. Speaking of the Bears, on their side of things, really impressed with Brett Rippon. Tyson Bagent was out there for a little while, didn't do much. I think he led them on maybe a field goal scoring drive, maybe. But this was really all about Brett Rippon. He played well, man. And good for him because he had his moments. Remember, he had that Thursday night game when he was with Denver against the Jets where he went out there and he played his tail off. And, he's done some good things at times. Again, few and far between have been, those Brett Rippon moments. But he's playing for his NFL life, obviously. And that was a really good showing. Again, I don't see the Bears keeping 3 quarterbacks. I think Tyson Bagent is going to be their backup quarterback. They drafted him last year. He did some good things last year when he was pressed into action. I don't see them, keeping a 3rd quarterback, but Rippon is, showcasing his skills to the rest of the league. If he continues to play like that throughout the preseason, he'll end up on somebody's, roster, or at a bare minimum, he'll be on Bears practice squad or someone else's practice squad. He'll have a spot in the league if he keeps throwing the football like that. He connected with Colin Johnson. I felt bad for Colin Johnson initially because he dropped what would have been a touchdown pass. And my wife was like, oh, he's trash. How did he drop that? That would have been a touchdown. He would have been right down the sideline. I was like, yeah, you're right. He should have caught that and he would have scored. It's tough when somebody jumps in your line of sight and they flash their hand up, which is what happened. The defender flashed in front of him, put his hand up, but the ball, he didn't touch the ball, but he lost sight of where the ball was when that defender did that. Then all of a sudden the ball's on you. And if you can't readjust quick enough, it's not going to be caught. And that's what happened on that play. But he quickly made up for it, caught a touchdown on that same drive, and then caught another touchdown later, had the big catch where he went up, climbed the ladder, and made a hell of a catch, one of those head toppers. Had another one, then it was overturned by replay. I thought it was a good catch. It did look like the ball moved just a bit, but it was hard to see if it actually hit the ground and moved. He just had a really good game, did Colin Johnson. Same can be said for Brett Rippon. And Khalil Herbert looked good in his few carries that he had. Again, I didn't know why he was out there, that late into the second quarter, but he looked really good. And all in all, I thought it was a really good showing by both teams in terms of the quality of play. It got a little sloppy there in the third quarter. I think Joe Buck pretty much jinxed it when he said, man, overall, this has been a really clean game. Not a lot of penalties. I say, Joe, you're a veteran. You know better than that. And of course, the very first play of the second half, on the opening kickoff of the second half, we had a penalty. And it was just raining flags the entire second half before the game ultimately was stopped due to inclement weather. So Um, all in all, I thought it was a really good game. Generally, these Hall of Fame games are awful to watch. This one was not. This one was not. But again, I stress to you, it's less about the game, more about the what it signifies, which is we're back. Damn, it feels good to be back. Um, I don't know if we're going to see Caleb Williams the entire preseason. It doesn't feel like we're going to see him in the preseason. He said he wanted to play. Of course, he wanted to play. They're not going to let him play. If they've got joint practices, and that'll be the key. If their joint practices set up with the teams that they're playing in the preseason, he's not going to play in these preseason games more likely than not. I take that back. I take that back. I think because he's a rookie, he might get a couple of possessions in the first 2 preseason games. CJ Stroud got a couple of possessions last year in the first 2 preseason games, didn't play in the third one. I wouldn't be shocked to see him. I think if you're a head coach of a rookie quarterback that you have intentions of starting and he's running with your ones, I think it is your duty to put your quarterback out there, your young rookie out there, for at least 2 possessions in each of the first 2 preseason games. If you have a first possession that is spectacular, 8, 9 plays down the field into the end zone, all right, 1 possession. I don't need to see you again. But if you go 3 and out or you get 1 first down and you have to punt, send them back out there one more time. And then whatever happens, whether it's another 3 and out or you get a first down or you score a touchdown, whatever, that'll be the end of the night, no matter what happens, right? To me, that's how I would handle it for the first 2 preseason games. Because again, I can't stress this enough. And Caleb Williams said this in his particular instance. It's a little bit even more extreme because his season ended prematurely. His season ended a little bit earlier than most quarterbacks in college football. His season ended in November, whereas most guys' seasons ended in December, and if you were fortunate enough, into January. But for Caleb Williams, he hasn't played in an actual game where he could be hit since November. I want my quarterback out there with live bullets, understanding that he does not have on, in the case of a Caleb Williams, an orange jersey, and he can't be hit. I want him in the game in a position where he can be hit so that he can get used to, once again, being a live target. All these practices, joint practices, all of that stuff doesn't replicate real football for the quarterback. Everyone else it does, but for the quarterback, it doesn't, because there's no contact for the quarterback. So I think you need to put him in that setting so that it's not a shock to the senses. And again, it's not like he's never played football before. But again, the man has not played in a real, actual football game where he could be hit since November. So we're talking, if you don't play him until week 1, you're talking about 10 months since the last time this man's been in a real football setting. So I would advise them to throw him out there for a series or 2 in each of the first 2 preseason games. And I would do that if I were, the Commanders with Jaden Daniels. I expect Drake May to play a ton. But again, I don't know if they're going to play him a bunch or not. I would if he's not starting, right? Jacoby Brissett's probably going to be the starting quarterback for the Patriots to kick off the season. So I would imagine they'd want to get Drake May out there as much as possible. JJ McCarthy, he's somewhat entrenched in a battle with Sam Darnold, but it feels like it's Sam Darnold's job to lose. So I would think he'd be okay with being out there for like a quarter or so. We'll see how each team decides to handle their rookie quarterbacks. Bo Nix feels like he's got the inside track to starting in Denver. We'll see what happens with Drew Lock, obviously, or not Drew Lock, excuse me, with Zach Wilson, obviously, but feels like Bo Nix is there for with an opportunity to really make some noise there. I told you one of the wild cards of this draft was Spencer Rattler in New Orleans. Obviously, Derek Carr, that's his team. So he's not going to start, but I'm telling you, watch Spencer Rattler this preseason. I've heard good things about him in camp, that he's turning heads out there. I'm not surprised. I told you that I think he's got a chance to be one of the guys that it has a chance to be like a Jalen Hurts of this particular draft that just passed. Like, an afterthought, but a guy that could ultimately be one of the better quarterbacks of this draft class when it's all said and done. So keep an eye out for him during the preseason to see how he's playing. And then obviously we'll see the other guys. Michael Penix Jr. in Atlanta, I would assume he'll play a ton because he shouldn't be playing at all come regular season behind Kirk Cousins. Same could probably be said for the last quarterback. Who did I not mention? We already talked about J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. Who am I forgetting? Talked about Bo Nix, Michael Penix. I named all of them. So it should be fascinating to see how these teams handle the preseason with their young quarterbacks. There's so many in particular this season. I'll be interested to see what kind of happens with these teams and excuse me, how they go about showcasing their young QBs, if at all, right? And again, something that has to be thrown into that conversation are joint practices. Are you having a joint practice? Whether you're having a joint practice or not, I'd still put the youngins out there for at least a possession or two, no matter what. But all in all, really well played game. Some quick news and notes from around the league. Justin Herbert has plantar fasciitis. He's going to be in a walking boot for the next 2 weeks. Don't think he's going to miss the beginning of the season, but that sucks. DeAndre Hopkins could miss the start of the season. I'm hearing 4 to 6 weeks with his injury. So that's a tough break for the Titans. They already aren't a super talented team to begin with. So to lose a DeAndre Hopkins is pretty brutal. Now, again, it's not an injury that's going to keep him out the entire season or anything like that, but still, you need all of your horses. And I've always said, just let me get to the starting blocks with all of my stuff. Let me get to the starting blocks with all of my horses all ready to go in the blocks, in the gates. And then when they open the gates and they're off, then whatever happens. But let me just get there first. Some of these teams not even going to be able to do that with some of these injuries that are cropping up. Did you guys see the video? Did you guys see the video of the Chiefs wide receiver Xavier Worthy getting pushed around like a rag doll? So if you haven't seen the clip, go find it. I don't even know how this thing stumbled upon my timeline, but it did. So the Chiefs are at practice. Xavier Worthy is on the line of scrimmage on a pass play. The corner on the outside is rerouting him, right? So he's not even really jamming him to like jam him. He's just rerouting him, like pushing him off. This man pushed Xavier Worthy like 6 yards inside of where he lined up, right? Like tossed him like he was a piece of garbage. And then he tossed him so far, he tossed him right into the linebacker that was in zone coverage. And the linebacker gave him a shoulder and he goes flying onto the ground. It's crazy. You have to see this. It was so comical. I almost didn't think it was real. I was like, this is fake. And then I'm looking at the scenery and I'm looking like that's the Chiefs practice facility. That's where they're keeping their training camp. And I'm like, that's not Xavier Worthy. That can't be. That guy is so small. It is crazy, right? Unbelievable how that transpired. But anyway, before we get to my bad. Before we get to the comment section and I open up the floor to you guys on this glorious night, I wanted to quickly talk about the odds for the Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans this year in terms of win totals. And this was brought to you by BetUSA or BetUS, excuse me. If you're looking for a new book this football season, BetUS is the answer. fastest payouts in the industry, 125% sign-up bonus for up to $2,000, or if you're into the crypto space, 200% crypto deposit bonus. Fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process. They're the best in the business. Check out BetUS for all of your sports betting. And according to the BetUS site, this is what they have for the Chicago Bears in their NFL regular season win total. So right now, you can bet on the Bears to have 8.5 wins. That's the number that it's set at, okay? 8.5 wins. That number seems a bit high. I'm not going to lie. Like, there's a lot of people riding this Bears wave right now, and I don't blame them. The number of moves the Bears have made this offseason, I believe in Caleb Williams. They traded for, they signed running back DeAndre Swift. They just locked up their wide receiver DJ Moore, who was exceptional last year. They traded for wide receiver Keenan Allen. They've really built this offense into a juggernaut, essentially, in terms of the weapons that they've surrounded their quarterback with. They already have a stud tight end already. And so the offensive line, they've been building that over the last couple of years. And then, of course, they drafted Rome Odunze. So there's and the defense came to life at the end of the season. I think that's ultimately what saved their head coach, Matt Eberflus's job, as he's now going into year 3. Boy, he looks a lot less stressed this year, doesn't he? He looked really comfortable on that sideline. Good for him. That defense came to life. They re-signed their star corner, Jalen Johnson, over the offseason, gave him new money. Montez Sweat got a new deal. He played really well after the trade. So they feel really good about that Bears defense. And the number is at 8.5 wins, right? And so right now, it's plus 130 to go under, and it's minus 160 to take the over on the Bears. So what Vegas is essentially telling you is that more people are smashing the Bears on the over. So in order to win, $100, you got to bet $160. Meanwhile, you put down $100, you could be walking away with some serious cash, $1,300, if they go under that 8.5 win total. I tell you what, that or you get $130, excuse me. But that under 8.5 wins, I feel good about them under 8.5. I don't see them winning 9 games. If they win 9 games, they're probably going to be a playoff team. Are the Bears a playoff team in Caleb Williams' rookie season? That's not a pushover division. It'd be one thing if this is the thing. Everybody keeps bringing up the Texans last year. The Texans played in an awful division. Okay. The only team in that division that going into the season was worth a damn last year was Jacksonville. And they started out hot and then they folded like a cheap lawn chair, right? And that allowed the Texans to come back and steal the division. The Bears play in the division where the team that won the division went to the NFC Championship game in the Detroit Lions. And the team that finished in second in that division almost made it to the NFC Championship game, should have beaten the San Francisco 49ers, and won a playoff game as the first 7 seed to do so in NFL history in the Green Bay Packers. So they play in a tough division. So I don't know if I see the 8.5 wins, right? I don't see them winning 9 games. What says you? I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting. Let's look at the Texans odds, courtesy of BetUS. BetUS has the Texans regular season win total at 9.5. So that's a pretty aggressive number, but they deserve it. Similar to the Bears, they went out, they made a bunch of moves that kind of really feel like we're going for it, right? We got our quarterback CJ Stroud on a rookie contract. This is when you swing for the fences. Generally, you usually get to year 3, and these are the type of moves that you're making because you figured out, I got a guy now. Now we can go all in before we have to pay him money. They figured this out in his rookie season, so they went all in year 2, and they have a wider window because you're not going to pay him for another 3 off seasons, pretty much. Not this off season, obviously, not next off season, and probably not the off season after that. But as he's going into that, off season between the 4th and 5th season, that's when you have to start talking about an extension for him, more likely than not. So 9.5, minus 160 on the money line. And same thing like with the Bears, under 9.5 plus 130. So I'll tell you this much. If I was a betting man, I'd probably take the over on the Texans. Because like I just said, their division still isn't all that great. I think Jacksonville will bounce back and be better as long as Trevor Lawrence is healthy. Indianapolis is a wild card. We don't really know what they're going to be this season. If Richardson is healthy, who knows what they could be. The problem is we haven't seen this man stay healthy yet, right? Even in the offseason, he's had to sit out of practices due to due to them being cautious, as they should this time of the year. But still, I worry about him and his health. And then, you have the Colts and the Titans. The Titans are a mess. I hate to say it that way, but the Titans feel like a mess right now. So I still think they play in a division that they can really dominate, outside of Jacksonville. And they dominated Jacksonville last year. That was one of their signature victories when they went to Jacksonville when Jacksonville was still good early in the season, and they stomped a mud hole in them. Their fullback had a kickoff return for a touchdown in that game. It was amazing to watch that turn of events, them going there. That was early in the season when we didn't think Houston was going to be very good, and we thought Jacksonville was going to be the class of that division, and they went there, and I don't know if they scored 40, but they definitely scored in the high 30s and really beat them up good in that game. Dominated them thoroughly. That defense is going to be rocking again under DeMeco Ryans. And after trading for Stephon Diggs, signing Danielle Hunter, you got Tank Dell coming back from injury. That team is loaded offensively. Nico Collins had a breakout year last year. He got a contract this offseason. Good for him. They're loaded at receiver. You love what they have at tight end. I talked about adding Cade Stover. You already have Dalton Schultz at tight end. So they're loaded at tight end. And you traded for Joe Mixon. Again, this is on paper, this is a really good Texans team. The only thing that I worry about with the Houston Texans is they were the hunted or the hunters last year because they weren't on anybody's radar. No one was checking for them. It was easy for them to sneak up on everyone and do what they ultimately did. They're not sneaking up on anybody this year. They're now the hunted, right? How do you respond to the expectations that are being placed upon you? I just told you that they're over under win total for the season. According to Bet US, 9.5 games. So essentially, they're saying that the Texans are going to win 10 or more games this season. That is massive for a young team like the Houston Texans. So there are massive expectations being placed upon them. How do they live up to those expectations? That's what I'm dying to see. I'll be interested to see what their season looks like, the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs. How do they handle some adversity this year? They're going to be one of the more intriguing teams to watch this season. Both of these teams that play tonight are, to be honest with you. But we'll see what happens. Once again, big shout out to Bet US, which is powering this stream. So let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say. We start off with Damn Twin Shorty Sublime. Stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. Thank you for joining the mob. Mob, y'all know what to do. Show Damn Twin, Shorty Sublime some love. Welcome him with open arms. Welcome to the squad. Damn Twin, Shorty Sublime. David Brown, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, David Brown. Dave, what up? DB says, what up, Lou? What's up, Dave? Says, hope all is well with you and yours. Football is back. Yeah. Likewise, hope you and yours are blessed. Really, truly do appreciate you. And you said it, brother. You said it, Dave. Football is back. Celebrate! Football is back, baby. It felt good. I'm not gonna front. Normally, I kind of shit on the Hall of Fame game and like, whatever. I was into it tonight. I was really dialed into this Hall of Fame game. And you know what? It wasn't a bad watch, as I mentioned at the top of the show. It was not a bad watch. Vincent Coe, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Vince writes, Lou, are you playing college football 25 the game? No, but I've heard about it. It's been highly anticipated. Do you know how long it's been since a college football game has come out? So a lot of people were fiended up for this thing, and they put a lot of resources into it. So they've been hyping this thing up for a very long time. I'd imagine that they knocked it out of the park. I would hope they did, with all that they poured into this, and for as long as people have been waiting for the return of the college football series. But my my game playing days are long behind me. I'm not a game head like I used to be. I pick up the sticks for certain games, but the competitive nature that I have, I can't pick up the sticks and just play recreationally. I'm too competitive for that. If I pick up the sticks, I turn into a different guy. I could do that when I was younger, when I didn't have kids, when I didn't have a career. I could pick up the sticks and play hours on end to perfect my craft so that I could bust somebody's head to the white meat shows. I'm past those days, man. And I know me. And I always tell you, know thyself, right? If I pick up the sticks and I play and, I lose or I win, it doesn't matter. If I start playing competitively, now I got to get nice. So now in order to get nice, you got to put in the work. You got to put in the man hours. I can't, I stopped playing Madden because of it. I stopped playing any games like that because I don't have the time to pour in like I used to. So no, I'm not playing college football 25, but I'm listening to anybody else that out there that's playing it. You can give me feedback on it so I, know and you can tell me how the gameplay is and all of that good stuff. But I'm sitting this one out, sitting all of these games out for the most part. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Chris, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. As always, truly do appreciate you. Who writes, hey, Lou, what's up, Chris? Hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise, as always, appreciate you. Hope you and yours are doing splendid. 2 questions. 1, what do you think it will take for the Texans to finish with the number 2 seed in the AFC, and why? And then number 2, do you see the Commanders getting an all-white uniform, and why? So, Chris, the Commanders already have an all-white uniform. They wear them all the time, right? They wear all white. We wore them in the preseason last year. We wore them in the regular season last year. They have all white uniforms already. Now, if you're talking like with a white helmet to match, I don't see that happening anytime soon. But if you're just talking about white on white combination, we have that already. But if you're talking all white with the helmet, no, I don't see them doing that. Not at least in the near future. If there's a rebrand of some sort, maybe down the road, and maybe 2-3 years from now, if we're still the Commanders, I could see them rolling out a white helmet to spruce things up. But they just gave us the gold pants. We're going to eat off the gold pants for the next 2 years or so. And then maybe, that 3rd year since the gold pants were introduced, oh, here's a white helmet to go with your white, tops and bottoms. But no, I don't see that happening. But as far as the Texans are concerned, You asked, what will it take for the Texans to finish with the number 2 seed in the AFC? Honestly, CJ Stroud picks right up where he left off last year is the first thing that they have to do. Defensively, they have to not only meet where they were defensively last year, because they had their ups and downs last year. There were games like the Tampa game where they gave up a bunch of points and the offense had to save them. The Cincinnati game was a game where they had to outscore the opponent and CJ Stroud had to pull a rabbit out of his hat late in that ball game. So there were a number of games where they kind of had to win shootouts. But there were also games where that defense was lights out. I talked about the blowout at Jacksonville where they destroyed the Jaguars and stomped a mud hole in them. And there were other games throughout the season where that defense was fantastic. They're going to need the defense to carry its weight this year. And having guys like Danielle Hunter join the roster is going to help. But, you lost some players too, in free agency. But I think the additions outweigh the subtractions. And I just think you want to see guys take that next step. Will Anderson was the defensive rookie of the year last year. Well, let's see him take that next step and continue to grow and develop in that role. I love their secondary. I was a big fan of the safety out of Baylor as he continues to develop. I love me some Derek Stingley Jr. Want to see him take that next step. So if they can continue to develop, that's going to help. But ultimately, if they want the 2 seed, it's going to be consistency, right? You can't have those lulls. You can't lose to teams that you're not supposed to lose to. You got to establish yourself as an alpha, and alpha teams beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. And that's the mark of a good team. Like, one thing about Kansas City is you might catch them slipping here and there, but Kansas City's always going to make sure that they beat the teams that they're supposed to beat for the most part. I think we caught them slipping last year. The Jets got them last year, I believe. And every now and again, you'll catch the Chiefs slipping. But for the most part, if they're supposed to win a game, like they played the Bears last year, for instance, beat them up like 45-10. They played Arizona last year, I believe. It might have been the year before. But when they play a team they're supposed to beat, they usually beat them up. If you're the Texans, you got to find a way to beat the teams you're supposed to beat and win a couple games against some teams that you're not supposed to beat. Now you're a big boy. You won the division. So now you're playing other division winners. So now you're playing Kansas City. Now you're playing Baltimore, right? Now you're playing the Buffalo Bills, right? So now you're playing all the top guns in the conference. You're going to have to beat one or two of them. If you want the number 2 seed, you're going to have to win some of those games, right? So winning the division, obviously, you got to start there. You got to beat some of the big boys, and you got to win the games you're supposed to win. That's usually the formula in the NFL. If you look at it, the teams that win 12, 11, 12, 13 games, win their division, end up with the 1 or 2 seed in their conference. It's not a hard, equation. It's easier said than done, but it's not a hard equation. It's literally win the games you're supposed to win, take care of home, take care of your division, and win, 1 or 2 of the tough games. You're going to have 4 or 5 of them on your schedule. If you're a good team, you won your division last year. You're going to have 4 or 5 really good matchups against really good teams in your conference because you won the division. So you're playing every division winner, no matter what. And then there's going to be 1 or 2 other games that you have to play against really good teams in the league. You need to win 2 or 3 of them, right? Take care of the division. Go 5-1 in the division, 4-2, 5-1 in your division. Really, you would like to go 5-1, but 4-2 is acceptable in your division. Go 6-2 overall at home on the season, or 5-2, depending on how many games you're playing at home, during the course of the season. Or not 5-2, 7-2 if you get that extra home game. Take care of home, take care of the division, win the games you're supposed to win, and win 1 or 2 or 3 of those tough games against those upper echelon teams in the conference. You do that, you look up at the end of the season, you're 11-6, you're 12-5, you're 13-4. That's what they're going to have to do if they want to be the 2 seed. Is be consistent, beat some good teams, and beat the teams they're supposed to beat. Take care of the division, right? Sweep the Tennessee Titans. Sweep the Indianapolis Colts or split with them, and sweep Jacksonville to split with them and go 4-2 or go 5-1 or sweep the entire division. Probably not going to happen, but that should be the goal, right? Christopher McLaughlin, my guy. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy, Chris, writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Chris? 2 questions. 1, what NFC quarterback would you select to build your team around today and why? And 2, if you could pick only one tight end, Kittle or Kelsey, and why? I take George Kittle. To answer your second question first, to go in the inverse of the way you asked them. I'd take Kittle because 1, he's younger, so it's a higher shelf life. 2, he's the best blocking tight end in football. I don't know if you watch receiver or not, but he's just a joy of a teammate. Kelsey is cool. I'm pretty sure he's a great teammate, but I've seen him, swing on a teammate before. And he's a head case. I've seen him, he's slamming his helmet. He pushed Andy Reid during the Super Bowl, got in his face, all that. He's a head case, He's a damn good player. I take him in a heartbeat, but I want George Kittle. He's the ultimate locker room guy. He loves the game of football. He's selfless. If George Kittle only catches 2 passes, you couldn't tell because he's going to block his ass off like he's got 6 catches for 150 yards and 2 tubs. So whether he's got 8 targets, 2 targets, or 12 targets, George Kittle's going to be the same guy, right? He's going to play the game with this infectious energy. He's going to block his ass off. And when you finally do call his number, he's going to catch the football and he's going to do damage. So he's a tremendous athlete, plays the game the right way. Not that Travis Kelce doesn't, but I like all of the qualities that come with Kittle. And he's younger, better athlete, younger. And, I think he's a better all-around player. But Kelsey's a dog, right? Don't get it twisted. But I take George Kittle at this stage of Kelsey's career, especially. In terms of the NFC quarterback I would build around, wow, that is a great question because right now there's really no runaway consensus, head and shoulders above the rest of the pack quarterback in the NFC. There's Stafford, there's Purdy, there's Goff, there's Hurts. And there's Dak, and then there's Kirk. I mean, that's the best of the best in the NFC. Which one of those quarterbacks that I just named do you want to start your NFL franchise with? Like, none of them is the answer. I'd probably take my chances with one of these young boys and roll the dice. I'd probably roll the dice with a Jordan Love or Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams before I roll with one of those older guys. Jalen Hurts is interesting, but I don't know if he's an elevator of a team. I think you put a good team around him, similar to Kirk Cousins and the rest of these guys that I just named, Brock Purdy. You put a good team around them, they can excel. I don't know if you put Jalen Hurts, and again, everybody needs talent to succeed. Like, I hate this narrative of you can put anybody around Patrick Mahomes and he'll lift, all of these players up. They weren't good on offense last year. The Chiefs were not good on offense last year. They won the Super Bowl because of their defense. Who are we kidding? Okay. Patrick Mahomes did not have a great supporting cast, and it showed. And if not for an elite defense, he would not have won his 3rd Super Bowl last season. Okay, so let's just go ahead and put that to bed about this whole not needing talent, this, that, and the third. Aaron Rodgers, his last year in Green Bay, did not have significant talent. He did not make it to the playoffs. Okay, let's not act like talent isn't important. You need to have talent. So I don't want to sit here and act like because you can't carry a team, you shouldn't be classified as a really good quarterback. But in the same breath, Mahomes did carry guys like Watson and MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Kadarius Toney, and the likes of that group to the Super Bowl. He did do that on the backs of a really good defense, an elite defense, and a really solid run game. But it was still Mahomes' magic. When plays had to be made, Mahomes still made them. And he still made the throws. He still made the runs. He still eluded defenders and made those wow plays that helped them get ultimately where they got to. And I'm not sure that those other guys are capable. I probably would roll with one of these young boys, to be honest with you. It's a great question. It really is. Because I'm not starting I'm not starting my building a franchise around Matthew Stafford at his age. Jared Goff is cool, and he's great for Detroit and perfect for who they are and what they've built. I don't want to start an organization around Jared Goff. I'm not doing it with Kirk Cousins or Dak Prescott. They're similar quarterbacks. I'm not doing it with Jalen Hurts, although I would contemplate Jalen Hurts. I'm not doing it with him either. And, the rest of the conference, and I'm not doing it with Brock Purdy. He is a product of his environment. He showed us something in the playoffs last year. When they had to have it against Green Bay, he stepped up. When they had to have it against Detroit, he stepped up. So I give him credit for that. But he's as much a byproduct of his environment as any of the quarterbacks that I just mentioned. When, Deebo Samuel went down and Trent Williams went down, they lost 3 games in a row. And again, if their kicker makes a kick in Cleveland and, Brock Purdy doesn't wet the bed in Minnesota, they could have easily won, at least 1 or 2 of those games. So to me, think that I'll roll the dice with one of the young fellas. I'd probably take Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels or Jordan Love before I took any of the established guys in the NFC. And I don't, and here's the crazy part. Jalen Hurts has played in the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy has played in the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford's won a Super Bowl. Like, they're established commodities. Jared Goff has played in a Super Bowl. He's been to an NFC Championship game. Purdy's been to 2 of them. So these guys have established themselves as winners and good quarterbacks. I still don't want to start my organization around and build it around those guys. Give me one of the young fellas with the upside and the promise of, hey, I don't know what I'm getting, but if you hit a home run, you could have one of the best quarterbacks in football. I'll roll the dice with instead of you giving me, what I can see in front of me, I'm gonna take what's behind curtain number 2. Right? Give me Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams or Jordan Love. And Love is somewhat of a known commodity because we got to see it last year, but it's just 1 year sample size. He could be ass this year for all we know, right? Give me one of the young fellas. Vincent Coe, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Are there any niche Olympic games you're interested in? No. Can we be honest? I haven't watched anything Olympic related other than basketball. Shame on me, because I'm gonna watch track and field. I wanted to watch swimming, and I didn't watch any of the swimming. And I haven't watched anything else but basketball. So I couldn't even tell you what some of these other sports, I know about curling and all these. That's winter though. This is summer. So I can't tell you what the hell they're out there doing, to be honest with you. And I've been too locked in on what I got going on. I just haven't sat down and turned on the TV. I will this weekend though. Sit down, turn on TV. Let me watch some Olympics. But no, there's no niche that I've gotten into. You know what's really fun to play? Volleyball. It's a lot of fun. Zoe Life, no life. Been a member for 15 months. Really, truly do appreciate you. Who writes, Bears have 3 starting running backs, in my opinion. I know of 2. I don't know if you count Roschon Johnson. I'm not a big Roschon Johnson fan. I don't know if that's who you were counting or not. I love me some Khalil Herbert, though. I'm pretty sure he's one of the 3 that you're referencing. And obviously, they have DeAndre Swift. I may be forgetting a back in their backfield, and there could be another guy that I'm not thinking about that's also really good. But I love me some Khalil Herbert. Vincent Coe, been a member for 34 months. Salute to you, my friend. Really appreciate you. Who writes, do you think Ben Morrison from your Notre Dame is a better corner than Travis Hunter? Travis Hunter is a better athlete. But pure corner, yeah, I do think Ben Morrison's better, because I think Travis Hunter, and I've heard this, a lot of people think his better position, because he's a two-way player, is wide receiver. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I watched him last year early in the season, before he got injured when he was playing two ways, and he made some incredible catches. There was one game, I think he had like 12 catches. It might have been that TCU game in the first game of the season when they won in that crazy game. He had a bunch of catches on offense, some big ones too. And a lot of people think his best position at the next level would be as a wide receiver. I think he's going to continue to play both ways. And, we'll see what happens when he gets to the NFL. But I'm not telling you he can't be a really good corner. And he's getting taught by one of the greatest corners in NFL history. So you'd like to think that if he just focused in solely on the cornerback position, he could be really good. But we'll see. But as a pure corner, I'd take Ben over him. But again, we'll see what happens. I should have done this earlier. But if you're out there, you want your comment read, use the hashtag LouieTLive. We got about 5 minutes left in the show or so. If your comment is pertinent and time permits, we'll get to it. But if you want to jump straight to the front of the line, as you've seen, super chats are the way to get that done. So let's see if there are any comments here that I need to address. John Wynn says, this new kickoff rule I just saw gave me a lot of headaches. I've seen enough. A lot of people, my wife, it's funny you bring that up. My wife said, this rule is dumb. I can't stand this. This is stupid. And every time they kicked it off and she watched them standing free, frozen, waiting for the guy to catch the ball 5 yards away from each other, she's like, this is dumb. They should go back to the old rule. This is stupid. And I said, I get it. I understand. It's going to take some getting used to, but I'm telling you, it's going to make the game more exciting. It's going to have the intended effect that it's supposed to have, because it's going to force teams to return the ball, essentially. Teams are going to do their very best to not have the ball land in the end zone, because if it does, then it comes out to the 30. If I'm a team, I'm not touching the football if that thing looks like it's touching a blade of grass in the end zone. If it looks like it's going to hit that thick white line we call the goal line, which is an extension of the end zone, I'm telling my guy, get away from it. That's the 30-yard line. That is tremendous field position. So teams are going to do their very best to have that ball land in the landing zone so that there's no way you're getting the football at the 30. So you're going to be forced to return the football. And that's going to make it exciting. Even if there aren't a bunch of returns for touchdowns, it's a play that now has to happen, whereas before it didn't have to happen. Casper the Barbarian, thank you for the super chat, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Casper writes, honest feelings on Hurts being voted 15 by the players. If he was that high after the season he just turned in, that's interesting. Again, keep in mind that the top 100 list is very flawed. We've heard how they get the tallies from the players. It's a very flawed system. However, keep in mind, Jalen Hurts led the Eagles to a 10-1 record. And let's also keep in mind, they're not 10-1 without Jalen Hurts' play through the first 11 games of the season. There were numerous comebacks where they were trailing at the half and he led them. It wasn't always pretty, but again, it was effective, it was gritty, and most importantly, it was a dub. So I get it. It was not pretty down the stretch of the season. I would contend that he was injured. He's not going to use it as an excuse. The play calling was horrendous. It is what it is. But he was really good for a vast majority of the season. So I get it. But 15 is a bit high for the way their season ended. It's a bit high. But he was really good for the first 11 games or so. He was really good. 15 good? Not exactly, but again, it's not that. I'm not tripping about it. Jamal Hamlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Jamal, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, "Hey, Lou, what's going on, Jamal? Like yourself, I have family from the islands. My mom is Trini, and my dad is from DC. Okay, that's dope. Do you have shared loyalty when it comes to the Olympic track and field?" So what you got to understand is my family is from the Virgin Islands, which is a part of the U.S. So it's not like we're a separate country and we have our own thing, right? So it's not like my family is Jamaican or something like that. Like my dad is Jamaican or something like that. My family was born in the Virgin Islands, which is a part of the U.S. It's been a territory of the U.S. for a very, very long time. They purchased the Virgin Islands a very long time ago. There's the British Virgin Islands, and then there's the U.S. Virgin Islands. And so all my loyalty lies with the U.S. There's no, separation of, oh, well, this side of my family is from this country. All my family is from the U.S. So, and it's not like St. Thomas has their own. Now, we take pride in people being from the islands, like Tim Duncan is from St. Croix. We take pride in people being from the Virgin Islands. My favorite boxer of all time is from, St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. So we definitely take pride in the Virgin Islands and people being from there and wanting them to do well. But all of my allegiance is to the United States of America. So it's a little bit different if you have, like you said, your family, from Trinidad, your mom's side or your dad's side, or your mom's side. I said that right. Your mom's side is from Trinidad. So there, you could be a bit torn there. And especially if you've spent time there and you're close to, your family on that side and you've spent time in Trinidad, then yes, there could be a little bit, you could be a little torn, but I'm not. I don't have that issue, so to speak. Swaggy P, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Swaggy P, right? I do find it ironic that the year Devin Hester, the greatest returner of all time, gets inducted to the Hall of Fame, this new rule gets put in. There is some irony to that. I also found it ironic that Devin Hester, who had arguably the greatest opening kickoff return in Super Bowl history, did it in the rain. Before he could have his Hall of Fame, sideline interview like Dwight Freeney did tonight, like Andre Johnson did tonight, and several others did, it starts pouring down raining. That sucked. But You know, that is funny. I never even thought about that, Swaggy. It's an interesting point. I don't think the two are tied together at all. But it is interesting that the year he goes in, that he's inducted, that they try to inject life into the play that made him essentially who he is and put him in the Hall of Fame. And you don't want to also discount the fact that he was a tremendous punt returner too. He was just dynamic with the football in his hands. He was a joy to play with on Madden, by the way. He was almost a cheat code. If you get it to him and get it to him in space, it was a wrap. Throwing a deep ball to him was cheating as well. And he was a fun guy to have on Madden because he was ridiculously fast. Casper the Barbarian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, which safety has the better year, Defoe or Reed Blankenship? I don't know the safety situation in Philadelphia. I would assume Reed Blankenship is the starter. That's my guess. I'm presuming that he's the starter because he was last year. Along with Brown, Sidney Brown, I believe, is the other starter at safety for them. So if that is in fact the case, if Reed Blankenship is still a starter, wouldn't you think he would have, more opportunities to be successful? Defoe is not a starter in Washington. And unless they go to a 3 safety look, which I think they'll do that from time to time, and he'll get on the field a little bit. But if Reed Blankenship is starting, he's going to have more opportunities to impact the game than Defoe will, because Defoe isn't going to start, and he's not going to be on the field as much as Reed Blankenship is going to be. So I'd have to give the nod there to Reed Blankenship, not because I think he's a better football player than Defoe, and he may ultimately be better than him, but not because I think that's the case, just because I think he's going to have more opportunities. You asked me that question last year, and I probably would have told you Defoe, especially coming off the season that he was coming off of in 2022 with, all the interceptions and him being around the football. He looked like he was poised for a breakout year in 2023, got injured, and the rest is history. Now you got Quan Martin starting at one safety and Jeremy Chin starting at the other safety spot. And you're going to probably have 3 corners on the field, and you're probably going to have 2 linebackers on the field, and you're going to have 4 defensive linemen on the field. That's 11 players. So I don't know if there's going to be a ton of space for him. Again, they're going to be subbing guys in and out, but I don't know if they're going to be a lot of snaps for Defoe or not. So I'd probably give the nod to Reed Blankenship because I just think he's going to have more opportunities. Point blank, period. So that is going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Wanted to look through some of your comments about the uniforms. Frankie Yo says the uniforms were forgettable. DCJ says they look like the Falcons jerseys. I agree. That's a good observation, DCJ. It did look a lot like the Falcons uniforms. Rich said they're mid. JR says their blue jerseys are better. I want to see those. Legendary One says they were clean. Okay. David Brown says the Texans uniforms were like your lady getting highlights and asking if you can tell the difference. Good one. Good one. Joshua says the battle red Texans uniforms are awesome. I agree. I love those uniforms. So that was a little bit of that conversation that we had earlier about the uniforms, kind of bringing it full circle. Anyway, I digress. Okay, Casper says he's starting next to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, CJ Gardner-Johnson. So yeah, if he's starting, then I would expect him to have more opportunities. So yeah, I think he'll be the more successful of the two. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Football is back. Celebrate. We back up in this bitch. Took us a while, but we made it. Football is here, and we won't be without football for the next 6 months. We will have preseason games next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, probably Monday, and we're off and we're running. Feels good, feels good. Texans, Falcons, or excuse me, Texans, Bears, not a bad preseason game. Bears, outlast the Texans 21-17. Inclement weather shut the game down early. We were done. It was done. We didn't need them running the football 35 more times to run out the clock. The weather did us a favor. It got us out of there early. We got what we needed to get. We have football. That's the most important thing. Good God, it feels good to be back. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Thursday Night Football Overtime. Man, it feels good to say that. We're back. See you guys next time